And welcome to another edition of the KellumMD.com video podcast. As always, Gabe Farias with my great, tremendous, wonderful, longtime, fantastic friend, Dr. Daniel H. Kellum Jr., Esquire. Actually, Esquire is like legal, right? You're not an Esquire, right?
No. He's so weird.
Now, why am I weird? Hi, I'm Gabe Farias. Nice to meet you. Dr. Kellum, we are here summertime.
Yes, we are.
We are in the middle of Little League baseball. We've got all kinds of summer camps going on. Interesting topic this week, which is head injuries, but more specifically for kiddos and for young ones that are playing. A lot of times parents and grandparents and everybody who sees these kids play, they think head injuries, concussions, that's for adults. It's not for kids. That's not necessarily the case, is it?
No. Who told you that?
My wife, Katie. No, but it's just kind of a misconception that kids. Sure. You see a baseball hit the side of a helmet, and you think, it's coming 40 miles an hour. He's going to be fine. Victor Wembanyama, probably the most famous non-football concussion maybe ever in the playoffs. It happens in basketball, happens in every sports, and it happens to kids. Talk about the importance of understanding concussions and head injuries with kids in sports.
Well, I think that's very important, Gabe. And it's one of those things that we've really been focused on over the last several years, probably last decade, to really understand the consequences of head injuries in sports. And the thing that people think about the most is football. Yeah. But truth be told is that we're in the middle of World Cup, and soccer is probably a more egregious offender when it comes to concussions. They're playing, they're bumping their heads, or hitting the ball with their head. I mean, that can be a big one. Another real big sport that tends to create those is cheerleading. So
really?
Yeah. I mean, think about all those young ladies that are being thrown in the air, they fall, tumbling. I mean, that's a big issue. And so, but I would like to, if possible, really kind of step back a little bit from the sports and just talk about generally for your kids, for adults, any kind of injuries in a car accident, if you fall. Had a patient today who had a bit of an accident off a balcony, and those are the kinds of things, albeit simple or a little freak in terms of their nature, that can create issues with that. And so if anybody's in a situation where they hit their head, tripping outside over a garden hose or bending over to try to pick something up and you fall, I mean, those are all big reasons that we see anyway why people hit their head, adults and kids. And so I think the thing that we want to be aware of is, one, if that has happened, two, if you lose consciousness with that, that's a big thing. But even after that, if you hit your head, if you're still having headaches, if you're having dizziness, if you're having lightheadedness, you want to be evaluated by your primary care, and subsequently we will get you to neurology if we need to. But those protocols,
you just don't mess with those things.
You don't, because you know what, and you don't mess with them because you want to get a baseline of where people are at. The other part too is that if they happen to have several of them, we want to make sure that there's no building effect and creating an issue for individuals. And so it's one of those things that I think is super important. I would rather parents always get their kids, or adults even, go get checked out and always be cleared, as opposed to assuming everything is okay and something, God forbid, is happening with that. Because we do know concussions can create an issue, and it's not just sports. Although that is the thing that tends to prompt things, it really is in everyday life that can happen. And so we want everybody to be aware of that.
So symptoms, I mean, you kind of touched on a couple of them. Obviously, lightheadedness, kind of blurred vision. What are some of the things a parent can notice? There's something wrong with little Gabriel. He's not acting right, more so than he normally does not act right. But, is nauseous. Is that something
Yeah, nausea is a big one for sure. So if they're having a headache, if they're nauseated, if they're a little discombobulated, for lack of a better word, their words aren't coming out right, their coordination is a little bit off, their walking is a little bit, discoordinated more than usual. Those are the kinds of things that we want to look at to see. One of the biggest questions, and this may be a better Mythbusters than anything else, is do you let people go to sleep once they hit their head? And the answer is yes, you can, but the real thing you want to have them awake for, at least wake them regularly for, is to do neurologic checks to make sure they're talking to you. They know where they're at. Everything seems right. They're able to get up. They're able to move. They're able to do the simple things that we know that when people are okay, they're able to perform.
I'm sorry. I just had a thought of a memory when I was a child. We had a batting cage in our backyard, and when I didn't hit baseballs, I used to hit golf balls, and my brother Jaime was standing behind me watching me hit golf balls. We had a huge net inside the batting cage, so I'd hit a million golf balls and everything was fine. There was one time where I just caught a little stinger. It hit a pole and Ricky hit Jaime right between the eyes. And he had this whelp on his forehead, and it scared Angie. Not so much Joe. Joe was like, it'll be fine. Get him back out there. My mom did not let him sleep like through the night. If you go to sleep, you're gonna die. Yeah, you gotta concuss. So when you said that, it just kind of brought up a memory. But you're right. That's a myth that I automatically thought, if Xavier or Nia have a concussion, you're not going to sleep unless I talk to you and you say they're going to be fine. Right. And that's something you got to think about.
You do, but that myth is busted.
Yeah. You'll never not see Jaime with a huge Titleist whelp right on his forehead. I didn't mean to laugh in the middle of that, but sometimes laughter is the best cure for a concussion. Wait, that's probably a myth too.
That is a myth. Too.
Okay, good. Laughter is not a cure.
But in all seriousness, because it can be a real issue for people. Just again, so those symptoms that we talk about are things that you really want to look out for. But being aware this summer, kids playing. Yeah. One of the other things, simply enough, is kids jumping into a pool. Sometimes if they're diving in and it's shallow, they hit their head on the bottom. I mean, those kinds of things can be problematic, because if it, God forbid, knocks them out for a few minutes, they're, not to scare people, but we want a heightened awareness during the summertime, just because kids are out of school, they're doing a bunch of stuff, they're riding their bikes, they're all over the place, and so we want to be a little bit more aware. And for parents, if something were to happen, seek treatment. Even if it's a phone call to say, hey, is this something I need to look at? But we want to make sure that we catch those things early, that y'all are aware, and things can be done to make a difference. Often things are observational, but it's really about the time we keep people and kids out of performance so that they can heal and everything can get better. But, as the summer goes along, and we'll have another podcast, I'm assuming, in the future about a checklist of things that we look at in the summer, which was a great idea. We probably should have done today.
We should have done it.
But to that, concussions are really an important part of things.
So quick question, Rico. I've watched the movie 2 or 3 times. One of the best movies I've ever seen, and it's actually called, I believe, Concussion. Yeah. Will Smith, he really, that doctor, I can't remember what his name was, doctor out of Africa, but he really did a deep dive into finding out. I think he even named CTE. He was the guy that coined that particular affliction when it came to multiple concussions. How many? One is too many, but how many is when you really need to start worrying? You need to stop playing, or you need to really hold back. I know that's kind of a tough question to answer, but is it 2? Is it once you get your 3rd one? Poor Tua. I can't believe he's still playing in the NFL. I wouldn't have that guy anywhere near the football field right now, but. That's a hard question as a generalization, because I will tell you, and that's why it's important that you get evaluated, because those kinds of answers are individualized to the particular
Makes person. Sense, yeah. So, one person's concussion, maybe one thing, somebody maybe have 2 or 3. And then some people, look at our friend James, who, spent his life getting hit in the head. Yeah. He's perfectly fine. And so,
that's subjective, but but he's in great health for a guy who had and took the punishment against the guys that he fought. Azuma Nelson, Oscar De La Hoya, Costa Zoo, fought the best of the best, and he still is very lucid, great conversations. He's sharp as attack. So you're right. It does, yeah.
And that's why I think it's important that you get checked, so that you get a baseline for your child or for yourself, because in that moment, that's the only thing that matters. And comparisons to others are not relevant, in my opinion. It's got to be really specialized to, we use certain protocols, but, the evaluation has to be that individual. And then the follow-up has to be based on what's good or bad for them. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. But I guess the first step with that, Gabe, to answer that question is just get checked.
Yeah, and that's literally the moral of this. If your kid gets hit in the head with a baseball, if your kid slides into second base and his head kind of bounces on the ground, if he's playing summer league basketball, falls backwards and his head hits, and he tells you, I don't feel right, that should be the absolute 100%, we're getting you checked right now. Get checked.
Yes.
Is the moral of this.
That's right.
Yeah. What is the what's one of the more stranger? Because I'm sure you've seen. Oh, you're not a brain specialist, obviously, but as a family doctor, you get a lot of odd instances where you have brain issues or head issues. What's kind of one of the more infrequent, if you will, cases where a parent brings a kid in and says, he's not feeling right. Like, did he fall out of the bed? What's one of the more, and I guess the moral is if your kid says his head hurts, go get him checked out.
I don't know.
A pillow fight? That would happen to me. I would be the kind of guy that would get into a pillow fight and I get a concussion out of it. I get concussed.
You're that soft.
I am.
It's hard. They come in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
It's really hard to kind of put a finger on what's the strangest one. I've had ranchers, dealing with their cattle, put their head down, cows hit their the gates and gates hit their. It's just weird stuff like that.
That's a great answer. So, yeah.
You just never know, and I guess that's really the bigger thing we're trying to give to y'all out there today is that be aware. Your kid may be just slipping on the sidewalk and hit his head, but don't just blow that off. Ask them, look at things, as all you good parents do out there. But if there's ever a question or if it's just not right or your gut just tells you,
take them in.
Yeah, take them in, because it's never a waste of our time, and certainly it's one of the things that I think can save them being issues down the line.
Yeah, and even if you do a televisit with somebody, they're going to tell you, take your kid in to get seen.
And that's what I would suggest is in that case, go get checked in person, because the neurologic exam is really very it's important, and you can't really quite get that off of a televisit, and so there are some things that are just better done in person. So in this particular case, I think it's good to get checked, but be aware of that this summer, folks. And as football starts in August, I think it's one of the things that's really very important, as well as all the ancillary stuff. Cheerleading picks up.
Oh, for sure.
Picks up. So
all of them, yeah.
We'll always be aware.
Dr. Kellum, one quick Spurs question. They came up a bit short. They had a need. They needed an enforcer, a bodyguard, if you will, to come in. 2 number 1 picks in the draft. I think they checked that need off pretty good on big physical power forwards that can come in and play now.
It seems to be, Gabe.
Yeah.
They seem to be the right person. What I will say is, it was always in the past, in Pop we trust.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the things. But, man, the front office of the Spurs, to me, and not knowing any of them, but they make good choices.
Yeah, they do.
And they really do a good job. And although the frustration of those losing years were very difficult, it is well worth the wait.
Yeah.
Our organization, and that's why it's my own personal take, is that I'm glad they got this arena downtown, because I think they've done themselves well as an organization.
Absolutely,
and they represent the Spurs and San Antonio well.
Yeah, and I'll take it a step further. I think there's a 1A and a 1B when it comes to front office moves, and as much as we hate them, the Oklahoma City Thunder, man, they always make the right choices, and that guy that's their GM was a protege of Popovich and of R.C. Buford. It's like the tentacles of what the Spurs have done and the impact they've had in all of basketball. It's Coach Sampson, the guy that's at Houston right now that almost won a national title. His career was done after Oklahoma. Pop takes him in, makes him assistant coach and an advisor. Next, his career's revived, and he's doing great things at the college level. But
the Knicks coach, our assistant.
Yeah, no, for sure. Mike Brown, that's right. That's one of the greatest examples of a Pop protege. Yeah. Is Mike Brown. All right, Dr. Kellum, that's going to wrap up this edition of the KellumMD.com video podcast. Thanks so much. Hope your summer's going well, folks. Remember, stay safe.